After spending all day trying to clean up the bodies under rubble caused by Mark's variant in the Invincible War, we see as Mark tries to rest for just a second as suddenly he hears "Stand ready for my arrival, worm," and looks to see a massive tank of a man floating before him in classic Viltrumite armor with an awesome golden gauntlet. This legendary beast is named Conquest, and he tells Mark that he's here to assess his progress towards preparing the Earth to be conquered by Viltrumites, and that if there is none, he'll simply take over the job and end Mark on the spot. Mark looks really furious, but deep inside it's almost like he's happy when he sees Conquest because Mark feels like he's to blame for all the lives that were lost in this war. So he tells Conquest that this whole time he's only wanted one thing, which was something to hit as hard as he can. As the Viltrumite says very well, and we get an amazing page of Mark roaring out in anger as the two begin one of the most violent fights in the entire series. Immediately they clash into each other, basically bear hugging, as it sends a shockwave across the area that knocked people off of their feet, an amazing introduction for this battle that we'll cover step by step in the next part. After Mark gets challenged on Earth by the oldest Viltrumite in the Empire known as Conquest, he starts to struggle as his brother Oliver comes flying in to try and help. However, Conquest says that he likes to know the name of who it is that he rips apart and isn't able to get an answer from the boy before Mark darts in and breaks his brother free from his grasp and tells him that he needs to leave now because this is far too dangerous. Conquest crashes onto Mark saying, "Show me your Viltrumite heart. Until I see it beating in my hand, I won't believe you even have it. Where's your rage? Where's your power?" In that instant, Mark bashes his head into Conquest's nose, shattering it and causing the beast to smile, saying, "Almost there." The two exchange blows of Mark finally drawing a little blood from the mad beast, but the games end there as Conquest catches Mark's next punch and puts on a very calm voice, saying, "Child, if that's all the strength you have, this is not going to end well for you." Using the arm that he's grabbing, Conquest slams Mark around like a toy, saying he's tired of getting to know Mark and he finally wants to take it up a level. So he does to Mark exactly what the Hulk did to Loki in the Avengers, as Conquest says that "I'm not complaining, but I'm starting to wonder why they sent me here. This is beneath me. It's far too easy. But it is fun." In Invincible, we've described how Mark ends up in a battle against the oldest Viltrumite in the Empire named Conquest, and it's gotten to the point where Mark isn't even able to defend himself anymore, as his brother Oliver has to come in delivering an impressive kick against the massive Viltrumite to try and buy some time so he can pull Mark out of the rubble. But none of them saw what happens next coming, because in response to this, Conquest knocks Mark out of the rubble and sends him flying away, saying, "Take a break for a second. I'm gonna focus on the boy for a moment." As Oliver tries to trash talk his way out of the situation to feel brave, Conquest grabs his arm and it snaps from the force as he uses his giant golden infinity gauntlet styled arm punch Oliver, sending teeth flying from his mouth. After all this, Conquest picks Oliver up over his head and starts to pull him apart as he says, "Do you feel your body starting to give?" And he explains every single step moment by moment in excruciating detail. Mark flies in a rage, screaming, "No, no, no," as he manages to get there right on time and tackles Conquest, freeing his brother, which buys time for Cecil, who's been watching the entire time, to open a portal and retrieve Oliver so they can heal him. During the battle against the oldest Viltrumite, Conquest, Mark has finally gotten his second wind, but elsewhere we see as Cecil visits Adam Eve in her hospital room and tells her that he needs her to join the fight because they have no one else. As they're negotiating, Mark gets skipped across the ocean like a stone right through a battleship as Conquest grabs him by the head Broly style and drags his face across the ground from the beach all the way back into the mountains. But finally having enough pain, Mark strikes back, knocking Conquest off of him. But here we go. We see Adam Eve in front of Conquest as he starts focusing all of his attention on her. So after he quickly breaks Mark's leg, he flies into Adam Eve and pierces her right through her sternum with his arms. As Mark cries, holding Adam Eve in his arms, Conquest slowly flies down and tells Mark that she must really have loved him, and despite the fact that Viltrumites can never have a relationship like this because it breeds weakness, he still finds it admirable and says he's starting to understand why Mark loves these creatures. As for a moment, you almost see a spark of humanity in Conquest as he tells Mark that Eve doesn't have long, so right now he'll give him a moment to tell her anything important that he's been holding back as this battle nears round 3. As Mark is holding Adam Eve in his hands with Conquest floating in front of him while the two of them watch her die, Conquest tells Mark that despite everything that's happened, he wants to thank Mark from the bottom of his heart. He says that it's not often that he gets to cut loose like this and go all out, because usually whenever he's sent to a planet, there's so many rules like what not to destroy and who to be kept alive. As Mark looks on, Conquest says that for some reason here, he was given free reign. That for whatever reason, he was told to take control of this planet no matter what it takes. So he tells Mark that whatever it was that he did to piss off their king, he's grateful because this has been fun. But it's time to bring it to an end. As while Mark is listening to Conquest and staring him down, the Viltrumite points out that Adam Eve died while Mark wasn't paying attention, and he says, "Good, I take it I have your full attention now." This is where Mark has his Super Saiyan 2 Gohan moment as something snaps inside of his mind as the tears run down his face, and he tells Conquest that he doesn't care how fast or strong he is because Mark has something even better. He can see the future, and Conquest doesn't live to see tomorrow. As the two fly full speed at each other and Mark punches towards Conquest, Mark's fist crashes slashes right through Conquest's golden arm, actually impressing the beast. But Mark says no matter how much you enjoyed that, I'm gonna enjoy this more. Conquest isn't buying it as he grabs onto Mark, but Mark bites him on his shoulder and rips a chunk out of it as Conquest looks confused, and we see him start to worry for the first time that he may have created a monster. As Mark starts to get the better of Conquest, he actually slams him into the ground and starts to pummel him with both of his arms, to the point where one of his arms completely breaks, as we see Mark's eyes full of hate while he screams "Die!" to Conquest, letting out all of the rage that he's been building up this entire time. Conquest told Mark that just because he's enraged, that wouldn't suddenly make Mark stronger than him, but what Conquest doesn't understand at this moment is the power of Mark's biology, as humans and Viltrumites might be the most perfect match in the universe, since Mark's humanity gives him access to something that no Viltrumite has, and that would be adrenaline. When Mark is like this, he's in an adrenaline rush, which should let him push past his limits, but as he continues to bash down on Conquest behind him, Eve's body begins to glow. While Mark bashes Conquest's face in, we see Eve's eyes burst open into fountains of light that begin to spill over with energy as light starts to escape from inside of her body from the wound she was given earlier. This energy swirls and twists all around her as it destroys her hero costume and everything she's wearing in the center of a mystical storm, and ultimately when it all gathers, it fills her body with a radiant energy she hasn't felt in a very long time, as Eve becomes a pink and white floating being of pure possibility before her entire body itself is reformed back to its perfect state, even healing the injuries that she was given before she arrived on this battlefield. This happened because when Eve was born, the scientists who made her place mental blocks on her powers that wouldn't allow her to use them on organic matter so that she wouldn't be too powerful of a weapon to control. However, at certain times, like when she's in danger, it's like her limiter is removed, so that allowed her to rebuild herself, and while she was doing that, she didn't realize that she also gave herself bigger boobs, but this is just a bonus, and this gives Conquest a small opening, but before he's able to take advantage of it, we see Eve fire a large beam at him that melts off the skin on roughly 70% of Conquest's body. Eve passes out, now healed, as Conquest goes towards her trying to finish her off again, but having enough, Mark dives in towards Conquest and punches him right in the face, but Conquest catches Mark's only good hand and breaks it, leaving Invincible with nothing else to attack with but his head, as he bashes his head into Conquest's nose saying, "Are you enjoying yourself? Is this still fun?" Conquest laughs with his nose shattered, saying, "I take the good with the bad," as Mark bashes his head into Conquest's face another 16 times at full power until Mark's entire upper body is just covered in red, as he looks down and we see the pile of pulp that is the Oldest Viltrumite's head, as Mark falls over and passes out, and Cecil and the others finally arrive trying to lend a hand, as they discover 3 bodies laying in this area and see Eve naked with her new boobs. After everything is said and done, we see Mark in the hospital as he's recovering alongside his brother Oliver, as both of them were injured very badly during this battle. But Mark is really there to check on Adam Eve, as her powers have been acting strange ever since she had to reform herself. Mark starts to rage, saying that even though everything is over, that monster still got something in the end, as he worries that Eve will never be the same. But Oliver apologizes, saying he's sorry about everything that's happened. However, Mark turns to Oliver and tells him that he should be the one apologizing. This entire time, he's been training Oliver to be more like Invincible, but this battle has taught Mark a lesson that he was wrong for telling Oliver to not go all out, because if someone tries to hurt his family from now on, or if there's ever a villain out there putting people's lives in danger and won't give up no matter what, Mark is just gonna kill them from now on, as he throws away his no killing rule, and we descend into the darkest period of the Invincible comic there ever was. But do you think that Mark can stay true to his decision without losing his heroic spirit, or is he striding a very fine line that could lead him to becoming more like his dark variants that he'd ever hoped for? Let's find out. And after coming to his senses a bit, he talks to Cecil and tells him to show him Conquest's body immediately, because Mark already knows how Cecil gets down, but Cecil makes Mark feel better by bringing him into a room where the body of the Viltrumite beast is unzipped on top of a table, finally letting Mark relax and put this battle behind him. While they're there, we go back to Cecil, as he's in a very top secret facility, and he stands next to Donald, who tells Cecil that he's really unsure about what they're doing. But Cecil looks on as the real body of Conquest sits in front of him, kept alive by their technology, as they hold him down under 400 tons of steel 6 miles below the surface of the earth, while Cecil says that he's gonna wait for Conquest to wake up so he can tell them everything about the Viltrum Empire and how much of a threat they pose to the planet Earth. This is a really bad decision, and it's just another one in Cecil's portfolio. He keeps getting Earth in really bad situations, like the situation that's gonna unfold once Conquest wakes up, as it leads to a rematch between the Oldest Viltrumite and Mark that'll go down in the history books of the series.